Why, hello, learning nerds. Before we begin today's show, I want to thank our awesome sponsors, with first giving a shout out to Idle Courses Academy. Idle Academy is the first and only authorized vocational school for instructional design and online learning. It includes a comprehensive hands-on curriculum with certifications, credentials, expert coaches, mentors, a community of practice, paid experience opportunities, industry-preferred software access, live events, and ongoing updates. Your entire instructional design career is neatly packaged behind a single login for just $88 a month. Check out all the details at idlecourses.com/academy, and you can use my code Luke for $88 off the yearly membership. This show is also brought to you by Instructional Design Institute. If you are looking to learn more about instructional design from a higher education perspective, the Institute is for you. This is our 7-week-long instructional design boot camp to be able to teach you about really everything from A to Z as far as from an instructional design higher education perspective. We're going to be starting off first of talking about with andragogy, how adults learn, to talking about conducting research, to then being able to design learning experiences for everybody, with the end of a 7-week program allowing you to be able to create your own type of learning experience that you can use for a portfolio. You'll also be receiving a free copy of my ebook, What I Wish I Knew Before Becoming an Instructional Designer, as well as is that I will be leaving you feedback on your assignments along with the community, the peer feedback, and of course, I'm going to be hosting weekly live workshops of talking more about the different types of topics for each week. We've had students go through the programs who work at Johns Hopkins University, University of Alabama, Southern Hampshire University, University of Florida, and many more. So whether you're an aspiring instructional designer and you want to learn more about what it's like to be an instructional designer within a higher education organization, or you are currently an instructional designer and you're looking to be able to get some feedback, some guidance, and being able to go back and transform your learning experiences for your university or your college or your institution, check out Instructional Design Institute. You can go down below inside of the show notes to click on the link, or of course, you can just Google Instructional Design Institute and it's going to pop right up. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free, let me know. I'm more than happy to help you out from there. Okay, now let's start the show. Hello, learning nerds, and welcome back on in to another episode of the show. My name is Dr. Luke Hobson. I am a senior instructional designer and program manager. I'm an author, instructor, blogger, podcaster, overall, a massive learning nerd. I consider it my passion and my purpose all about instructional design and to be able to share more with you to help you along your own instructional design journey. And of course, you can find all of my information over at drlukehobson.com. Before we get into today's episode, folks, I also just want to give a big thank you to you because of the latest blog post and podcast episode talking all about the introduction to Addie. Really took off. A massive amount of you shared the article on LinkedIn and you were talking about it and mentioning about my perspective of Addie and different types of things of that nature. And it was crazy how many people shared that article. So apparently this is something you like. I'm taking the hints. I should do this more. So the other thing that you get to hear about, because you're a podcast listener, to hear a sneak peek behind the scenes about things, is that entire blog from Addie was directly taken from the new book I am currently working on / have been working on now for a couple of weeks or so. So hearing the fact that you so much enjoyed that content and that style gives me some hope that also there will be a lot of positivity around the new book or around the new blog, whatever I'm doing with this. I'm creating, this is still kind of undecided, I'm creating something of putting all of this wording together that's about currently 70 or so pages. So it would be a humongous blog, but the whole point was it to be a massive blog in the first place to help you so you can bookmark it, go back to it whenever you want. But also, I might turn it into a book in the future if it does well. So I don't know. I'm just kind of talking away with you to be able to share more with you about what I've currently been working on. But anyway, a big thank you for checking out the blog post about Addie, sharing it, and being able to enjoy talking about that with all of you. And on today's episode, which you so cleverly realized what it's about from downloading this and clicking on the title, is that today we are talking about masterminds. And I have a question for you. Did you ever hear a term and it just glosses over you? You know what it means, and you hear people say it all the time, but you convince yourself it's not for you, and you move on with your day. Every time I heard the word mastermind, that was essentially my mindset. I was like, oh, there's that word again, and then I just kind of moved on to the next thing. After listening to story after story of successful folks, there were a few themes that came up during every interview that I listened to. I would hear that they would exercise every day. They would wake up early. They talked about being agile. They talked about cutting out stress out of your life. And then, sure enough, always was this point about joining a mastermind. Okay, I thought to myself, but what exactly is a mastermind? And of course, how do you join one? The idea is relatively simple in nature. Surround yourself with smart people to help support you and your ideas. Obvious statement is obvious, right? I've always had a great support system with friends and family and peers, and I'm sure you do as well. But the thing is that those folks, they weren't the appropriate people to share about my new endeavors on what I was working on. Now, don't get me wrong, they were always excited for me, but I'm not going to ask a friend about how to write a book if they've never written a book or if they were not interested in writing a book at all. Much like how as instructional designers, we need to think about the target audience for our learning experiences, I needed to think about who I was connecting with and for what purpose. For me, it was that I found myself accidentally stumbling into a business world with entrepreneurship, consulting, and freelance, yet I had zero clue what I was doing. For you, it could be landing an instructional design position, getting a promotion, or finally launching your side hustle after years of contemplation. So who should be in your new inner circle with this mastermind? Here's what I wish I knew beforehand. It doesn't need to be folks directly in your field, and this could be a huge benefit to you. I was able to find the right people to help me outside of the instructional design space. Whether I was focused on writing my book, creating content with a podcast or a YouTube channel, hosting workshops for universities, and launching Instructional Design Institute, I didn't always reach out to fellow instructional designers for advice. Yes, I did indeed talk to many instructional design friends, but it wasn't on a weekly cadence, and it was more superficial details. Instead, I found my mastermind in a bit of an odd way, and this might be the way for you to find your people too. After downloading podcast after podcast about entrepreneurship, I realized that I didn't like 90% of them out there or so. I couldn't resonate with most of these people as I personally had no plans on trying to quit my 9-to-5 job. I like working at MIT. I don't plan on quitting MIT. But I also had an incredibly specific niche of trying to serve aspiring and current instructional designers, and this became my passion. I luckily stumbled upon one podcast about entrepreneurship, but it wasn't the host that I connected with. It was actually the guest being interviewed. She was a nursing professor who realized that the nursing students were not being supported enough in their degree programs. They wanted more help outside of a classroom, and multiple students were coming to her for advice. This deeply resonated with me, as many people I talk to are indeed students in instructional design degree programs, and they feel that their degree hasn't yet prepared them enough for the real world, and they're looking for help. I found her email in the show notes, and I wrote to her about how inspiring her story was and about how I found myself in the same type of circumstances. I asked if we could have a virtual coffee chat sometime because I was so curious how she established her own business around this type of a coaching concept. I was actually planning on asking her if she wanted to create a mastermind, but she did me one better and she invited me to join her mastermind group. Within this group were 2 former nursing professors, a weather scientist, and a realtor. What did we have in common? Well, we were all trying to serve our target audience. They didn't know a thing about instructional design, and obviously, I have no idea about their fields, but they have been my support system for the last 3 years. What separates masterminds from normal groups is that while it's friendly, it's also treated like a business meeting. And the best way I can explain that is that we take turns going around the Zoom room to share what we've been working on for the week, ask for feedback, and then set a new goal before the next time that we meet. This takes accountability to a whole different level. When you have an amazing win, you can celebrate this essentially with your team. When you are feeling down and out and you just can't do it anymore, you have folks who can pick you back up. Something that I've always found so amazing about this group is that they genuinely want to be there. Even though it's on Zoom, it's later on in the evening, there always is this type of enthusiasm around the meetings. We always do our best to show up, to be present, and to provide support for one another. I really do believe that because of these folks, these people who I have never met in person yet, still been online for multiple years, I have been able to go above and beyond my own expectations. So now that maybe I have sold you on the idea of why I think masterminds are great and how potentially they can help you, I'm sure you're asking this question of like, awesome, Luke. So, hey, how do I find my mastermind? Well, one idea, you could literally do step by step what I did. Contact folks who share the same passions as you. Ask if you can have a virtual coffee chat sometime and see if it makes sense to try and form a group. What I would look for specifically, I would be trying to reach out to people who are on the same wavelength as you. And what I mean by this is that I wouldn't be reaching out, like I'm personally am not going to reach out to Bill Gates to form a mastermind. It does not make sense. We are not going to be on the same wavelength. He probably has one. I don't doubt that in any way, shape, or form. But I'm going to assume that those people are incredibly successful, probably billionaires. It's a little bit different. So I want you to find people who you share the same headspace with because their advice can help. It's going to be relatable and it's going to resonate with you. My second suggestion would be to simply use LinkedIn. Yes, you can join online communities on LinkedIn and find connections that way. I would certainly recommend to do so no matter what. However, you don't need to join an official group page. Let's say you are an aspiring instructional designer and you want to form a mastermind for all of you to land instructional design positions. That is the ultimate goal. If you follow instructional design hashtags, you'll see the same names popping up again and again and again. By commenting and liking and sharing instructional design posts, more are going to appear in your feed, and it's not going to be long until the algorithm picks it up, figures out what you're trying to do, and then all of a sudden, your LinkedIn is going to be filled with like an instructional design sharing capability machine. You can use this to stay up to date with current trends and topics and research. That is actually what I do to be able to try to gauge the interest of what people are talking about on a daily basis. More importantly, though, for this type of conversation, you're going to find others with similar interests as you. I'm also confident in saying that many people on LinkedIn are there to make connections, but they would rather wait for someone to connect with them first. Taking that initiative, even though it's going to be scary for some of you, I know, but I promise if you take that initiative, it is going to lead to a world of conversations that you would never have otherwise, all because you were the one who made that first step. Of course, and I want to be very, very clear about this with you, please be smart about who you connect with online. Trust me, if you are starting to sense a red flag, something's not right, you feel like you're falling into something where this mastermind is going to cost you $500 a month or something just ridiculous, please be careful. Don't. If your gut is telling you, something's not right, I'm going to assume that your gut instinct, it's probably leading you correctly. So please be careful with who you connect with about these things. But I will say, to not scare you, is that our Learning Nerd community online, our community of instructional designers and L&D people, it's strong. It's great. There are so many wonderful human beings who I've connected with online. They're far more good people than I've had with meeting some rather unpleasant people. It is a drastic ratio. So hopefully you can find your right people by just being able to adapt the algorithm on LinkedIn to work for you. And a final suggestion for you here is that you could just have people come to you. Nothing is stopping you from creating your own post about the mastermind idea, and you want to form this and you invite others to join you. That act, the invitation of being able to say that, hey, I'm here, this is what I want to do, who else wants to do this with me? That can be enough of an initiative to make someone say, oh, that's interesting. Let me go chat with that person. What I have found from connecting with so many people online is that many people want to connect. And of course, they thrive with others. That's why they're on LinkedIn in the first place. They're trying to be able to find that support system, that community, your people. But a lot of folks out there are waiting for that invitation to be able to connect with one another. If you provide that warm welcome, I promise you, people are going to respond. So what's the main takeaways here? Connecting with others who share similar passions and interests as you, well, that's a no-brainer. But you need to find the folks who are committed to the goals. Once you do find your mastermind, your creativity and your innovation is going to soar. All you need is that push in the right direction. You just need that guidance, and you'll be off and running before you know it. And if you are listening to this episode still, which I'm assuming you probably are, comment on my LinkedIn post talking about this and tell me, what did you learn? Have you made a mastermind before? How has that group helped you to be able to achieve your goals? Once again, without my friends who are able to help and support me throughout everything with the book and with everything else, I highly doubt that I would have been able to do everything. I mentioned about the accountability a couple of minutes ago. That was just something different. I didn't want to let them down. I didn't want to let myself down. There was a whole lot of thinking of, I need to do this before my next call with them on Tuesday night. And if I don't do it, well, then I better have a really, really good darn reason for why I couldn't do it. And of course, if my reason was that I'm stuck, I need help, please give me your thoughts, do a brain dump with me, and just say whatever comes to mind. Maybe that is the thing that takes you over that edge and you can figure things out. I know that for sure. It definitely helped me out. And once again, I did not have a group of instructional designers. It's so funny to learn from other people, to be able to say that I'm in a group with somebody who has worked at NASA before, and that is where I draw inspiration from, is to hear more about his ideas, or talking about from my realtor friend or the nursing friends. It's just it's an interesting world that I live in. And once again, I only found these people because of the fact I took that initiative. I reached out to someone after listening to a podcast episode, and everything just essentially worked from there. Folks, if you enjoyed today's episode, please give it a rating on Apple Podcasts. A lot of you listen to this show. I don't have as many ratings that reflect as far as for how many of you listen to this show. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this a 5-star rating on your podcast player of choice. But of course, Apple is the most visible, and that's why I keep on saying Apple Podcasts. But by all means, I'm not picky. Wherever you listen to the show, please give it a rating. I super duper appreciate that. And as always, you can find me everywhere online: Facebook, LinkedIn. Not so much Twitter. It's kind of, I don't know, that platform is going in interesting directions. I'm mainly on LinkedIn nowadays. And of course, subscribe on over to the YouTube channel. I'm posting a lot over there. We'll be sharing a whole bunch more, because we are going to have some amazing guests come on the podcast within the next couple of weeks. I'm really excited to be able to dive on it with them and talk more about their field, their work. And so stay tuned. We have some really, really awesome people coming on the show pretty soon. Other than that, though, folks, that's all I have for you today. So, of course, stay nerdy out there, and I'll talk to you next time.